We're glad to have back with us here on Capitol Tonight State Representative Tony Dale, Republican from Cedar Park. And you saw all of those interim charges from Speaker Strauss come down. Two of the committees that you serve on are affected. But first, let me just ask you overall your thoughts on what he's aiming at as we look towards 2017.
Well, I think it's a very business-like approach, looking at economic growth in the state of Texas and how oil and gas is going to impact that. But looking at important things like school choice and sanctuary cities, things that you might be seeing in the news, and also even the harvesting of fetal tissue.
Yeah, this has been something that both the Senate and the House leadership has been saying, let's take a look at. Many of these, in fact, issues overlap. But let's look specifically on a couple of committees that you're on and some of the charges there. You serve on the Energy Resources Committee as one, and you mentioned oil and gas, and there's a provision here to study the impacts of the declining price of oil and depressed price of natural gas on the economy, what the fiscal implications might be. How big of a deal is that in your mind, and should it be for lawmakers heading into the next session?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal for all Texans because the oil and gas industry is a big driver of our economy. Now, certainly over the years we've diversified in terms of the economy, but still we gain somewhere around 35–36% of our gross state product from the oil and gas industry. And as you may know, a lot of the jobs associated with the industry are well-paying jobs as well. So at a refinery, for example, for every one job at a refinery, there's about 22 other jobs associated with that one refinery job. On an oil rig, you might have a very small number of people that are from the actual oil company, but there's as many as 200 other service jobs per rig that are out there. So having people out in the field working is a big deal for everyday Texans, and it also impacts our state tax collection as well.
I know Comptroller Hager has been, keeping an eye on it, and certainly has been, revising things and somewhat cautiously optimistic. But are you satisfied with the progress that and information that you're getting from the Comptroller as you prepare for this next budget cycle?
Well, I don't envy the position he's in. I've been in the energy business for over 20 years, and I've always said that once I figure out what the price of oil is going to be, I'm moving to Wall Street, and that's going to be the end of the show for me, Yeah. But it's hard to predict. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But although we're in a period of low pricing on oil right now, you don't have to stick around too long. No, that could change pretty rapidly. I'm not sure we're really in that situation today, but if there's a big geopolitical change, you could see a big difference very quickly.
Okay, another thing in this committee that was asked to take a look at is determine if, looking at some of the wording here, if sufficient safety standards exist to protect groundwater contamination from disposal and injection wells, dealing with the issue of fracking. Is this something we're hearing any problems with? Because we've always been told that, really it has been pretty safe in the sense that we've not seen any, contamination, that it's, all the procedures and precautions are taken. But why this charge now? Are we anticipating, or do we see any problems develop lately?
Well, I think anytime you're dealing with things like oil and gas or even mining, you're going to be concerned about environmental effects as well. And it's something that we take seriously at the legislature. And I would agree with you that we haven't seen major harmful effects from disposal wells. It's something that there's been some discussion about, and I think that this study will help us understand more if there is a problem or not, and maybe a method of addressing any issues we find or being able to put some concerns to rest.
The other committee that you serve on, among the three, Homeland Security and Public Safety, and this was a call to review the functions of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, dealing with natural disasters across the state, to make sure that we are prepared with a growing, it seems like we have all these wildfires, a lot of flooding of late. How prepared are we, and what are lawmakers looking at to make sure that we are prepared for the next disaster?
Well, Texas is no stranger to disasters, as you say, and in fact I believe we're the #1 state in terms of declared disasters, and obviously we're a very large state and very diverse. But you're right, we get hit quite a bit, and you always have to be prepared. I would say, from my personal experience in going into the State Operations Center and being out in the field with some of these folks, is that we've got a really excellent program of emergency management in the state, not just from the state level, but really the primary first responders are at the local level. It's your mayors, it's your county judges, but we have training programs for them, we have support out there for them, and we at the state are kind of the backup. How can we serve you? And I think we do a pretty good job. The National Guard's involved with this as well, DPS, our weather folks, there's all kinds of people that are involved. But you always have to be honing your procedures because you don't operate in a vacuum. We've got to do a lot of this coordination with the federal government and sometimes with other states as well. So you got to stay on the ball, and the nature of the threat changes sometimes as well.
We have a few minutes left. I know one thing you were interested in talking about was something that you're not directly involved in, but as a lawmaker, you were glad to see the Speaker have a select committee dealing with things that come from the federal government, like the EPA, for example, the Clean Power Plan of late from the Obama administration. Is Texas burdened by the federal government when it comes to issues like this? And what does the Select Committee try to handle along those lines?
Well, it's my opinion that we're definitely burdened by some of these things, and that there's also a distinction between what the federal government should be doing and what the state government should be doing. You know, the Clean Power Plan that you mentioned is one where the president is fundamentally trying to change how electricity is produced and delivered in the state of Texas. Today we do it based on the lowest price electricity first. That's good for consumers. And they're trying to change it so it's lowest emissions first, which happens to be the most costly kind of electricity out there. And we're not really getting credit for the good things we've been doing in this regard. We've got more wind power in Texas than any other state in the country, and under the EPA's plan, we get very little credit for it. So what we would have to do under the President's plan, I'm going to go to my notes for this, based on EPA's methodology, Texas would have to build more wind and solar than exists in any other nation in the world to hit the Texas portion of the goal. So it's just a tremendous number that I personally don't think we're capable of hitting. And Germany's tried this. Their electric costs have gone up over 300% in Germany, and they're having reliability issues. So we want safe and reliable power, and also affordable. This is not good for people that are poor. It's not good for manufacturers. It's not good for anybody that likes to flip on a switch and have electricity.
We've got a minute left, so I'll try to get one more in, but it was something that has been making news through the governor as well as the lieutenant governor, and that's the issue of sanctuary cities, you know, a policy that might be in place where you're not enforcing federal immigration policy. Is this something that should be a special session issue, as some argue, or, as the governor says, let's wait for the next session and make this a campaign issue? And why is it important for you?
Well, I think it is important, and of course it's up to the governor to decide if he's going to do a special session. If he calls one, I'll be there. I'll gladly be there.
Would you like to see one?
Well, I certainly would show up. It's up to the governor to decide. But I know this is a big issue because there's a lot of folks that we have in our jails that are criminal aliens that commit an outsized number of crimes that shouldn't be here in the first place, and we shouldn't have cities that want to disregard the fact that there's people literally that are murderers, rapists, and arsonists, child molesters, committing DUIs, all these kind of things. And I'm not talking about minor crimes. I'm talking about things that impact people and property, and we shouldn't have cities that are not doing the right thing in trying to preserve public safety.
Okay, again, many other topics will have you back, but just scratching the surface of some of the interim charges, and we appreciate you coming here and sharing your thoughts on it.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, and the Quorum Report's Harvey Kronberg is on the agenda coming up next.